All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's call this meeting to order. Welcome to Development Review Commission for December 8th, 2020. The Development Review Commission is created to hold public meetings and hearings to provide analysis and recommendations to the City Council regarding general land use policies and applications where the Commission has recommendatory power, and to render final decisions on specified applications where the Commission has final decision-making power, including but not limited to all aspects of a proposed and future development. The Development Review Commission recognizes that the creation of a desirable environment throughout the city for residents, business, and industry is a prime requisite for the interdependence of land values, aesthetics, and good site planning by promoting harmonious, safe, attractive, and compatible development that is therefore considered to be in the best interest of public health, safety, and general welfare. Any person aggrieved by a final decision of the Development Review Commission may file an appeal to the City Council within 14 calendar days after the Development Review Commission has rendered its decision. Okay, got through our preamble there. Folks, we have with us tonight on our commission Commissioner Barbara Lloyd, Commissioner Don Cassano, Vice Chair Michael DiDomenico. I am Chairman David Lyon. We also have with us Commissioner Scott Sumners, Commissioner Phil Amorosi, and Commissioner Andrew Johnson. Joining us by way of city staff, we have some here with me in the room: Ms. Saparna Dasgupta, Joanna Berry, Steve Abrahamson, and we also have joining us by way of the computer, Mr. Ryan Levesque, Lee Jimenez, Robbie Aaron, and Dalton Guerra. First item on our agenda tonight is a consideration of meeting minutes from our November 10th meeting, both study session and regular meeting. We have examined those and we didn't find any edits to be made to those meetings, to those minutes rather. So we will consider them as written. So, Commission, can I hear a motion regarding the approval of study session and regular meeting minutes for November 10th?
Mr. Chairman, this is Commissioner Cassano. I would make a motion for approval of the Development Review Commission study session of November 10th, 2020, and the Development Review Commission regular meeting of November 10th, 2020.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Cassano. Do I hear a second, please?
Second.
Okay. So motion to approve from Commissioner Cassano and seconded by Commissioner Amorosi, I believe.
Yes.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Lloyd, how do you vote?
I am abstaining. I was not at that meeting.
Okay, as I expected, thank you. Commissioner Cassano?
Aye.
Vice Chair DiDomenico?
Abstain.
I vote aye. Commissioner Sumners?
Aye.
Commissioner Amorosi?
Aye.
And Commissioner Johnson?
Aye.
All right, so the motion passes 5-0 with Commissioners Lloyd and Vice Chair DiDomenico abstaining. All right, so folks, let's move on now to our consent agenda. We have reviewed our agenda of cases here and found all but two seem to make a good fit for our consent agenda. We plan on having the Bellick residence, Robertson residence, Skywater Smoke Shop, Fry's Fuel Center, and Quantum Surgical Center on consent unless we hear otherwise. And so the question is there anyone with us that wishes to have any of those cases heard? Ms. Dasgupta, do you see any signs that there's anyone that wishes any of those cases heard?
Chairman, I do not have any public comments on those.
Okay. All right, so we'll move forward with our consent agenda as written then. May I hear a motion regarding its approval, please?
Commissioner Lyon, I move that we approve the consent agenda and remove item 3 and item 7 for the hearing.
Second that motion, Don Cassano.
Okay, motion to approve from Commissioner Amorosi and seconded by Commissioner Cassano. Commissioner Lloyd, how do you vote?
Aye.
Commissioner Cassano?
Aye.
Vice Chair DiDomenico.
Aye.
I vote aye as well. Commissioner Summers,
Aye.
Commissioner Amorosi,
Aye.
and Commissioner Johnson. Oh, I faintly heard an aye there. Okay. All right. Thank you, commissioners. All right. So having taken care of that, that leaves us with two cases we will hear. First up will be Antonello residents. Forgive me if I'm pronouncing that incorrectly. And then we will follow that with Reef Kitchens. So,
Chairman, Cassandra Ayers is the person presenting on behalf of the Antonelli residents.
okay, fair enough. So I'm told Cassandra is our presenter. Are you with us, Cassandra?
I am. Can you hear me?
I am. It is our tradition to allow our applicants to speak first so they can frame the issue as they choose and then follow up with city staff. Are you prepared to present?
We are.
Okay, we'll take it away then. Tell us about your case.
Good evening, Chair and Commissioners. My name is Cassandra Ayers, as you can see from the little tile on the screen there. What you can't see is that we are with Buse Gilbert McGroder, which is at 701 North 44th Street, and our firm represents the applicant, whose name you did pronounce correctly, so well done. I have with me this evening Felipe Zubia, who is a planner in our office. If there are any questions that I can't answer, Felipe is more than willing and ready to answer those questions. So as you can see from your packet and the staff report, we are requesting a use permit for an increase to the allowed maximum height for a wall in front of our yard and sidewall to 6 feet. And I unfortunately don't have the benefit of Mr. Jimenez's presentation. I thought he was going to be going first today, so I don't have the benefit of that presentation, but if you can help someone out and maybe bring up the aerial photo, it'd be much appreciated. If not, I will just keep talking. So the property is along Carver Road, just to the thank you very much, I appreciate that. Just off of Rural Road, as you can see here. We're only about 4 houses down, and so we are proposing this increased wall height to provide a buffer from the road for ourselves and for our pets. So the proposed wall is to be constructed of a solid wall with brick veneer and decorative Victorian wrought iron view fencing on the top. So the bottom portion, which Felipe, correct me if I'm wrong, will be approximately 3 feet tall. And then the remaining height of the wall will be that wrought iron view fencing. So you'll be able to see everything from about 3 feet up. There will be, and later on in this presentation, I believe, are some pictures in the staff report, and then we sent some additional examples of the finished product earlier today that may be incorporated in the presentation from staff. There will be 4 gates made of the same style of the wrought iron as the fence, that 3-foot top portion. And then the front yard gate will be approximately 5 feet wide and 6 feet tall. And then the side yard gate will be approximately 3.5 feet wide and 6 feet tall. And in the driveway, we'll have 2 of the wrought iron gates that will be each be approximately 10 feet wide and 6 feet tall. And then they'll be kind of inset about 2 feet inside the driveway and attached to the block post so that they automatically open from the middle and then swing inwards towards the driveway. They will not swing out towards the street. This request conforms to the development and zoning code criteria. I'll just go into that a little bit. The zoning and development code requires that there will not be caused any significant vehicular or pedestrian traffic in the adjacent area as a result of this use. Clearly, this is just a fence and a wall that is designed to keep folks off of our property, as well as protect us from the busy street. So there will not be any additional vehicular or pedestrian traffic as a result of the approval of this wall. And it's not going to cause any nuisance from the emission of odor, dust, gas, noise, vibration, smoke, heat, or glare. We're not going to cause any of those factors. And the automatic gates are, brand new and are not going to cause any additional noise or vibration as they open. Will it contribute to the deterioration of the neighborhood or downgrading of property values, which is in conflict with the goals, objectives, or policies of the city's adopted plans for the general plan? And the answer to that is absolutely not. In fact, we believe that the construction of this fence with the brick veneer and the Victorian wrought iron fencing is only going to enhance the aesthetics of the neighborhood, and it will also blend cohesively with the existing architecture of the residence that's there currently. And the use is also in compliance with the general plan. And then the question of whether it's compatible with the existing surrounding structures and uses. I'm sure you're all familiar with this area. It's made up of custom homes, and none of them look the same. Many of the neighbors here have constructed fences in their front yards to both protect from the street as well as enrich the look of their homes. Case in point, the residence, which is at 11616 South Rural Road, which is located across the street on the southeast side of Carver Road, already has a 6-foot block and wrought iron fence in the property. And I believe there are some pictures of that fence that were submitted as well as an example. And then whether there is adequate control of disruptive behavior both inside and outside the premises, which may create a nuisance to the surrounding area of the general public. And that's exactly what this fence and wall is designed to do, is to prevent both of those things from occurring in this area. It's our understanding that we don't have any opposition to this proposed use. We did receive a letter, and when I say we, I mean we received it from the staff, a letter in support yesterday. I think it was a little too late to include it in your packet of materials, and hopefully staff will tell you about that. But it is in support, and the neighbor who lives on Pecan Grove Circle says that it is a very beautiful brick and view fence that's surrounding the property. It's open to see the lovely home, and the brick complements the brick that's on the house, and it also provides security. So she is supporting this request because she sees our property as she drives down Carver and believes it will be pleasing to the eye. So with that, I'll answer any questions that you have or turn it over to staff for their presentation.
All right, thank you. Commission, any questions for Ms. Ayers?
I have a question, Mr. Chairman.
Right, Vice Chair DiDomenico?
Couple of questions. Thank you for that thorough and direct presentation. That was very helpful. A few questions. I'm going to be pretty direct for the sake of time. Is the masonry portion of this fence already constructed?
Yes, I believe it is.
Okay, so you're essentially seeking approval for something that's already been done?
My understanding is that it was started, but it is not yet complete.
Okay. And the non-view portion is approximately 3 feet in height?
Correct.
Okay. I noticed that a lot of the pictures of other similar view fencing in the neighborhood in front yards seemed to be more the style where it was a wrought iron fence without that 3-foot portion, just 10-foot columns on, 10 feet on center, but you could really see through it without the 3-foot view. Did you find any other examples that were more similar to what you're proposing?
Commissioner, we did not find any more examples similar to what we're proposing, but it is our understanding that the 3-foot block wall is a use that is allowed by right, and that we're seeking approval for the 3 feet of view fence that is just going on top of that.
That's my understanding also. Can you tell me there's a large structure at the northwest corner in the backyard of this property? Maybe a large building of some sort. What's that? It was shown on the site plan in the presentation.
Commissioner, give me just a second. I believe that is an art studio. Let me pull that up here. Yes.
Okay, which kind of leads to my next question. Is there any commercial use of the property?
No, there is not.
Okay. All right. When I tried to pull up aerials, Google seems to think that it's a business address for a shotcrete company. So
I'll tell you, when I look at the aerial view of my house, there are a lot of dress shops apparently in my neighborhood that I can't see.
all right. One last question. The neighbors immediately adjacent to the east and west, were they consulted? Are they in support of this? Because this fencing greatly impacts their views. They no longer have that 180-degree view out their front of their house. Have they weighed in one way or the other?
They have not. They were notified, and we did not receive any communication from them one way or the other.
Okay. Staff, I'll be
Decision at all.
asking the same question of you on the neighbors if you've heard anything directly. Thank you very much for your response.
Thank you for your questions.
Okay. Commission, any other questions for the applicant? Seeing none, we'll thank you, Ms. Ayers. We'll come back to you in a couple minutes, I suspect. And let's see. Mr. Jimenez, are you with us?
I am here, Chairman. Can you hear me?
I can. Please go ahead.
Good evening, Chairman Lyon, members of the Commission. My name is Lee Jimenez. I'm a senior planner with the Community Development Department in the Planning Division. This request for the Anton Weller residence is located on Lot 3 of the Rain Tree Unit 2 subdivision and the R110 Single Family Residential District. As the applicant has stated, they're requesting this use permit to increase the wall or fencing height in the front building setback up to the maximum of 6 feet. And it's basically a view fence. And it's constructed of 8-inch CMU block with brick veneer and the decorative wrought iron in the view portion. And then there will be 2 gates, a vehicular gate and a pedestrian gate. And throughout this public advertisement of this public hearing item, I've only received one comment from someone nearby. They're maybe about a half mile to a mile away, but they support the project. They have seen what it looks like at this moment, and they think it's well designed. There was no neighborhood meeting required for this request. And actually, if you go to the next slide, the photos that were recently provided are these next 2 slides. So this kind of shows you where it's at this moment. Photos that were provided in the packet were basically when it was under construction with the CMU wall portion. And these photos here will show you what it looks like with the veneer on. And from what the applicant has explained is that it's still under construction, and they are still working on getting a vendor to provide and install the wrought iron fencing in the view portions of the fence. And so based on the information provided in the staff report, staff supports the request. It meets the required criteria. It will conform with the recommended conditions. of which there's only one unique condition of approval, and that is condition of approval number 2, which is basically calling for a planning inspection at the completion of the project. And like I said, there was only one comment received from the public. I have not heard from either neighbors on the east or the west. And I will be available if you have any questions regarding the case.
Okay, any questions for staff? Commissioner Sanders.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a question. How did this come to the city's attention? I mean, typically when someone starts construction and then they come in for a permit, it's because somebody called in and complained. And we're not hearing anyone that has any issues with this. Just curious.
I can tell you that there is no code compliance complaint against this lot, so there's no open violations, and I can't speak to how it began construction without the entitlement, but perhaps the applicant can provide some details on how that occurred.
Okay, thank you, Lee.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, any other questions for Mr. Jimenez? All right, well, thank you, Lee.
Thank you.
All right, so if we could ask Ms. Ayers to join us again.
I am here.
Sorry, I've neglected one minor thing. We don't have anyone with us that wishes to make public comment, correct?
No, I don't.
Okay. All right, so now we'll come back, Ms. Ayers. Yeah, would you care to comment on that last question or anything else that you've heard?
Sure. Our client actually started construction on the wall and didn't know that a permit was required for the view fencing portion of it. And when she found out, I believe it was informal. I don't think there was any citations, as Mr. Jimenez said. I don't think there were any citations or notice of violation that were sent. But she did find out, and when she found out, she immediately filed for the use permit in order to complete the view fence portion.
Okay. I'll tell you, I think that wise. Some people go ahead and just build the thing, and then somebody makes a phone call, and you end up talking to us anyway, but it's a bigger headache at that point. All right, so Commission, any other questions for Ms. Ayers? Ms. Ayers, I apologize. All right, it looks like we're pretty satisfied on the questions front. So Cassandra will thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. So, Commission, your thoughts? Does anyone feel strongly about this case and wish to? Commissioner Sumners, you want to share your feelings on this one?
Sure, thank you so much. I actually didn't have any issues with this when I reviewed the report. Thanks for the comprehensive information. I was just curious about how this comes to our attention because there's a variety of circumstances. I really appreciate the answer there, and I'm happy to support this one.
Okay. Other comments, Commission? All right, let's hear a motion then. Commissioner Johnson.
Sure. I move for the approval of PL 200209.
Mr. Chairman, this is Don Cassano. I would second that motion.
All right, motion to approve from Commissioner Johnson, seconded by Commissioner Cassano. Commissioner Lloyd, how do you vote?
Aye.
Commissioner Cassano?
Aye.
Vice Chair DiDomenico?
Aye.
I vote aye as well. Commissioner Sumners?
Aye.
Commissioner Amorosi?
Aye.
And Commissioner Johnson?
Aye.
All right, so that passes 7-0. Thank you, Antonellos and Ms. Ayers. All right, so let's move on to the final case for the evening, Reef Kitchens. I believe we're looking for Kelly Milligan. Is that right, Ms. Dasgupta? Or Joanna?
Yes, that's correct.
All right. Kelly, are you with us?
I am. Can you hear me?
Yes. Yes.
Great.
If you're prepared, go ahead and tell us about your case.
Sure, absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the commission. Our use permit request, I'm just going to dive right in. Our use permit request is to request approval for a mobile commissary kitchen located at 830 West Broadway Road, adjacent to an existing building and actually tied into the infrastructure with power and water connections to that building. At Reef Kitchens, we operate in 19 other cities, or MSAs as we call them, and we cater to third-party delivery apps only. We prep food on site, we cook food, and we hand off to delivery drivers by way of DoorDash, Uber Eats, businesses of that nature. We do have a commissary kitchen located in the city of Phoenix in Maricopa County, and we are expecting approval, I believe, tomorrow. So we are well on our way to moving forward. And as you can see on the slide here, this is the location at the intersection of West Broadway Road and South Hardy Drive. The adjacent business there is called Friendly Market. It is a convenience store. We have received full support from both the business owner and the landowner. And this would be our first location here in the Phoenix Valley, and we are very excited to pursue this potential partnership. A little more detail about our business model is that we both have internal and external brands, as we call them. We are actively pursuing local brands to be members of the community. I do know that we have partnerships with some brands such as BurgerFi, we have in some of our cities, and also a brand called Man vs. Fries. We do all we can to benefit local kitchens, local restaurants to expand their footprint, and are committed to being the best community partners available. If you could go to the next slide, please. All right, so there's the use permit request. In order to address the approval criteria, any significant increase in vehicular or pedestrian traffic, there will be an increase just with the comings and goings of the delivery drivers and staff on site. But we don't believe there's to be any overly burdensome increase that you would typically see with a convenience type market. The nuisance arising from the emission of odor, gas, dust, noise, vibration, nothing outside the range of that is existing at that particular location or along that West Broadway Road. There are many other restaurants, and we are excited to be a part of that community as well. The third criteria, contribution to the deterioration of the neighborhood or degrading of property values. We do not anticipate that to be the case. We hope to provide a value to the community and complement other brands and other businesses for the community, and then also increase the land value of the actual site we are on with the enablement of power and water for that particular purpose. Criteria number 4, the compatibility with existing surrounding structures and uses. As I mentioned, we are proposing to tie in with electricity and or power to that particular site. That does prevent us from requiring to use a generator. Our business hours are 11 a.m. to 2 a.m. and to provide a generator for that extended amount of time would be burdensome both for us and for the community. As you can see on the slide there, we are proposing option number 1. Option number 2 was evaluated, but at this time, option number 1 is where we would propose our location be. And then I believe one final criteria is adequate control of disruptive behavior both inside and outside the premises. We do have an extensive security network and cameras located in our vessel, and then with partnership with the adjacent building at Friendly Market. We will be the best partners possible and provide any sort of information necessary in the off chance there's any event at all. I do believe that concludes my presentation. I'm trying to get straight to the point, and I appreciate the commission's time. And Mr. Chairman, I feel free to open up to any questions.
Okay. Well, thank you. So I don't usually do this, but I'd like to jump in with a question right away.
Absolutely.
I guess I'd like to just get more educated on what this is that we're talking about. You say vessel, and I'm assuming it's not a giant wooden boat.
No, sorry. Yeah, that is our internal, that's our vernacular we use for a 24-foot tow behind commercial kitchen food trailer type.
Okay, that was going to be my next question. Is it actually a food truck, or is it more of a trailer? And it sounds like you're saying it's a trailer installation?
Right. Correct. Yeah. In Maricopa County and in the state of Arizona, we do have food trucks in other locations throughout the country. We've made the choice to develop this particular region with food trailers.
Okay. Do you by chance have anything that you can show us so we have a better sense for what this is going to look like?
Yes, absolutely. If I'm able to share my screen, I can absolutely provide some pictures.
Greg, are we capable of doing that? Oh, okay. We're going to ask Miss Barry if she can help us with that.
Sounds great. And I can always send some pictures over to Mr. Jimenez if needed.
Okay. Sounds like we're going to make you presenter for the moment.
Okay, sounds great.
I would suggest be careful with what you have on your screen when it comes up.
Of course. Okay. Let's see. I am now the presenter. All right. So I am switching over to a PowerPoint presentation. Can anybody see this right here?
I do not see
on the bottom of the
PowerPoint yet.
screen is
Okay.
a share button. You press the share button and then choose the PowerPoint presentation.
Share. Yes. Thank you. All right. I believe that we are now there. Okay. So essentially, this is an example of a vessel in another market that we would have here. The wrapping would be slightly different. I think ours in the valley are going to be a lighter shade of blue, but they are every single vessel and food trailer that we have will be considered will be wrapped, and we will have all necessary supporting infrastructure to support it. You will see some seats and tables here as a part of the condition of the use permit. We don't anticipate ever needing those. This is a strictly delivery only, no opportunity for sit-down eating at this location. I do have some photos of the interior as well. It is a full-fledged commercial kitchen. This has a 12-foot commercial hood. It has multiple fryers, heating lamps, various areas for storage of frozen and temperature-sensitive goods, and 3-compartment sink, Ansel fire suppression system. Really, if this were in a standalone brick and mortar, this would be any chef's dream, I would suppose.
Well, I'll tell you, just what you're showing me right there clears up concerns right away. Just having a sense for what you're talking about installing helps a lot. So, I mean, you can tell us more if you wish, but that satisfies me. How about we do some other questions? Is that all right, Mr. Milligan?
That sounds great.
By the way, is it Kelly or Kelt?
It's Kelly. I happened to typo before and not proofread my name before signing in, so shame on me.
No worries. I just want to make sure I have it right. All right. So let me ask Commissioner Amorosi. Question?
Thank you, Chairman Lyon. Mr. Mulligan, your business model, I'm used to seeing commercial kitchens in industrial areas, not in retail spaces. Is there a reason why you're pursuing a retail parking lot instead of an industrial parking lot where the use is more common?
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you for the question. I and Reef Kitchens' business model is to go where the people are, mainly residential, as close as we can within zoning restrictions and reason. And part of our goal in Phoenix is to place strategically such that we can reach the most with the available space given. I do acknowledge that most are placed in industrial areas. Those are mainly for lunchtime crews coming and going. Our business model is such that we want to reach those at home.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Lloyd.
Thank you, Chairman Lyons. So I appreciate the presentation. I do agree with you. This really looks nice in terms of a commercial kitchen. You mentioned comparing that to brick and mortar, and that's where part of my concern comes in, because this is not just you there for a special event. This is becoming somewhat of a permanent feature for that intersection, which I think is great for the intersection and revitalizing the neighborhood. But I do have some concerns about how would you address the restaurants down the street that do need to pay the brick and mortar rent. What type of an agreement do you have with the convenience store that would make it somewhat fair for the market?
Yeah, absolutely, Commissioner Lloyd. Thank you for the question. We do have an agreement with the business owner that requires us to pay rent for the spaces that we have allocated and rented from. Part of our sunk costs would be we do have to make some necessary upgrades to his building, which we wouldn't necessarily gain benefit from in the long run if and when our lease agreement expires. I don't have the number off the top of my head, but I guess to range in the tens of thousands of dollars to fully enable the site with 200 amps and adding another hose connection to support our needs, and various other site improvements that are required for us to do business with the building owner, bathrooms, upgrades, other things mentioned in the use permit. I do believe we have to required to add 2 bicycle spots. So I believe in regards to fairness, we are committed to this site. We want to and plan to make the necessary upgrades and commit ourselves to that particular cost, and along with the monthly rent that we would be paying.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Vice Chair DiDomenico.
Mr. Milligan, my concern is more parking and traffic flow on the site. It's not a large site. You're going to make it smaller by taking up a significant part of its parking lot with infrastructure. My understanding is this isn't a location where consumers come to pick up an order. Is this primarily served by DoorDash and Postmates and the like?
Correct. Yeah, you're absolutely correct. I do believe we have the ability to allow the actual end user to choose to pick up from our particular locations, but 90 to 95% of our business is through those third-party delivery apps. You are correct.
So what do your projections show? Your busiest day, how many individual trips to pick up food will happen at this site? Busiest day. Full operation.
I can't really speak to that off the top of my head. I will have to reach out to my team for our projections. I can tell you that the busiest days. I do apologize for that. What's that? I'm sorry.
What's your average store generating trips? Not this one.
Once again, unfortunately, I can't. I don't have those numbers offhand here. I do apologize for that. But I can absolutely reach out and see if I have a member of my team that can address that.
Okay.
And I do apologize for not having that offhand here.
That's all I've got, Chairman.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Summers, you still have a question?
I'll wait for staff. Thank you.
All right, fair enough. All right, well, Mr. Milligan, I think we're going to come back to you in a couple minutes. We're going to go to our staff presentation, and we'll be right back with you. Thank you.
I have one more question, Chairman.
Oh, I'm
Chairman,
sorry. Didn't mean to skip you. Commissioner Amorosi?
well, it just came up. How do they discourage walk-up customers that come to the convenience store and then want to go over there and get food?
That is a great question. This is Kelly. We don't necessarily discourage those from walking up. We don't have a traditional point of sale system that accepts cash and card and the like. We guide them through the third-party apps. If they don't have the particular app downloaded, we would give them some instructions on how to do that. And there are options within each delivery app that could allow them to pick up from our particular location. So if, like in your example, if somebody's there to pick up something and they're waiting and they see our vessel or our trailer there, we could absolutely provide some guidance and get them to the point where they would accept and pick up the.
Thank you.
Absolutely, and I do have a response to the vice chair on the maximum on any given night. We do typically see about 15 to 20 orders per hour on the busiest of nights. We do typically more business later at night, and that allows the lower traffic during the nighttime of comings and goings of the general public to support the drivers.
Okay. All right, fair enough. All right, so now let's see. Mr. Jimenez, we've missed you. Can you come back and tell us about this one?
I am here. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Mr. Chairman. Well, once again, Lee Jimenez, Senior Planner with the Community Development Department in the Planning Division. So just some basic facts about the site. It's the northeast corner of Hardy and Broadway. It is owned CSS with that existing convenience store, the Friendly Market, at the site. Next slide, please. So this is a use permit to allow temporary outdoor vending, and temporary meaning that it's not in a permanent building. Now, as far as time goes and time constraints, that can be conditioned if needed. But right now, the scope of this use permit is for the use to, if it is approved, to continue in perpetuity. And this site plan shows you the two options that were vetted through the application process. And staff is only supportive of option number 1, and that is stipulated as condition number 2 in the conditions of approval. Now, there was no neighborhood meeting required for this request, and there was a public inquiry, but the lady cited no concerns for the proposed use. And then here are the street view shots on the left-hand side that's looking north towards the market. And just to the west of the building is where the vessel will be located. And then the photo on the right-hand side is showing you looking east within that little parking area where the vessel will be parked. And so based on the information provided and the application and the analysis in the staff report, staff recommends approval of the requested use permit. The request meets the required criteria and conforms to, will conform to the recommended conditions of approval. There are several non-standard conditions of approval. And for those commissioners who were present for Cloud Kitchens last summer, some of these conditions are very similar to that scope of use permit. So condition number 2 just identifies vessel option number 1 as the only approved location for the vessel. Number 3 goes over locks in the hours of operation. 4 identifies that the site shall conform to all development standards, including landscaping and screen walls. Condition number 5 addresses how that the lighting will meet the zoning standards as far as minimum foot candles. Number 6 basically just says that there's no that the outdoor vending will conform to the criteria and requirements in the portion of the code for temporary outdoor vending. Number 7 basically says that the vessel will not block any required drive aisles that are used for refuse or fire access. Number 8, the use will conform to the lighting standards for the pickup window areas or the entryways to the vessel. Number 9 is stipulating that the site provide the minimum required bicycle parking spaces, which at the moment, based on what I've seen in Street View, there is none. So the requirement is 2 bike spaces, which can be accomplished with 1 loop. And then the last one is basically saying that this is for takeout only, no chairs or tables. Otherwise, we would have to park the site, and based on the current site conditions and the current parking situation, there would not be adequate parking. So as a takeout only restaurant, it meets the parking requirements. And then just a quick note on, based on the examples of the vessels or the photos, I just want to make sure that the applicant is aware that any signage on the wrapping or the color identification, all that is subject to a sign permit, which can be a post-processing permit after this process. And I am available should you have any other questions regarding this case. I understand that a commissioner has a question for staff.
All right, thank you, Lee. Commissioner Sumners.
Yeah, thank you so much. Just a question of how the code addresses parking requirements for this kind of use. I see we've got a requirement for 10 spaces, and it says that there are 11 that are provided on site. I don't know if I'd ever want to park in those spaces on the very west of that parking lot, but if you count those, there are 11. This vessel will take up 2 spaces, I would guess, so they're only at 9. So is the 10 what's required for the convenience store?
The required noted in the staff report is for both the vessel and the retail and the convenience store. And the vessel is actually parked as takeout restaurant, and that is similar to retail, which is 1 per 300 square feet. So at the bare minimum, 1 parking space is required for the vessel. And there is a little room just north of the vessel for 1 vehicle to be parked. So that's where the total provided and required numbers come from.
Okay. I'm not sure anyone could ever get into that 4-foot wide space with the dumpster in the wall there and a 24-foot long vessel. That's maybe a stretch.
Maybe
okay.
If you're looking at the area photo, there's a weird, odd parking space which is just south of the proposed vessel, and it goes in an east and west direction. So that is technically a parking space.
Yeah, this just seems like a big stretch, especially when we're talking about 15 to 20 trips or stops an hour, plus the traffic to the store, and the fact that those spots are that tight. That's all. So just wanted to clarify that one. Thank you.
All right. Let me just go down the order I see them here. Commissioner Lloyd.
I don't have any further comments or questions at this time.
Okay. Apologize. I saw your hand up digitally. Vice Chair
Oh, I already
DiDomenico?
got,
do you
I'm
have-
sorry, I didn't take it down.
Lee, I'm going to kind of follow up on Commissioner Sumner's line of reasoning there. So the applicant has mentioned that this site during its 15 hours of daily operation could generate 15 to 20 trips. So that is an Uber Eats driver. I don't want to just give screen time to the same company, so I'll try and spread it around. But so that driver, or 15 to 20 of them every hour for 15 hours a day till 2 in the morning, drives onto the property. They negotiate the parking spaces that is also shared with the convenience store. They leave their vehicle, it's not a drive-through, so they park their vehicle. Oftentimes I'd expect there's going to be a few of them picking up orders at the same time. And in addition to that, I'm guessing there's probably 4 or 5 employees inside here preparing the food and vending the food. And they probably got there with a vehicle. So I just don't see how these two, I love the business. I love the business model. I like the look of it. I see the need, all of those things. I just really wonder how this site works and doesn't present a nuisance in the amount of traffic generated on this site for the neighborhood, which is a prime test of our use permit. So that's what I'm getting at. How do they both meet the criteria for parking?
So based on the applicant's letter of explanation, their business plan is to have 2 employees in the vessel. And then as far as traffic generation is concerned, I'm not a traffic engineer, but this is zone CSS. So in CSS, you can have a restaurant use allowed by right. So if this convenience store ever turned to a restaurant in the future, if they can make the parking work, it would generate just more traffic than what's existing right now with the convenience store. So that's kind of the way I evaluated the project. And then as far as the takeout and the third-party vendor services to make those deliveries, there is room on the site to create loading zones, not official parking spaces, but I can see how a site modification could identify maybe a loading zone along the screen wall there to the southwest corner, if the need comes to be, if that lot is so busy during any of the peak hours throughout the day.
Does that satisfy Vice Chair DiDomenico?
I understood the explanation.
Okay.
Thank you.
It'll serve as an answer. All right. So Commissioner Amorosi, do you have a question?
Thank you, Chairman Lyon. Mr. Jimenez, 2 questions. One, okay, if there's 2 employees, then they're going to have to get to that site somehow. So if hopefully they would carpool together, because I don't think they're going to move this trailer on and off site every night. So if they don't, then there's 2 spots that they're going to be using for their own vehicles on the lot. And then how do we, if they do that, you have even less parking space. How does that work?
Commissioner Amorosi, I'm just looking strictly at the square footage and the parking ratios for the proposed uses in determining the parking requirements. As far as the operation is concerned and the number of employees that the convenience store has and then the vessel would have, I don't know, because those are out of our control as far as coming up with the parking requirements for the site. All I can say is that according to the code, based on the floor areas and the ratios, that they are meeting the parking requirements based on what is provided and required. But we do have a condition of approval that we can add to this scope of the use permit request. And this is kind of like a trial period for the proposed use, where we would require that they come back during a certain period of time, typically 6 months, for a review of compliance to kind of review the use permit and determine whether the use is still appropriate, and if needed, provide additional conditions of approval, or have the hearing to discuss whether the use may not be appropriate. So that's something I could offer as far as the unknown for the parking situation and how it may come about after it begins operation.
I like that. And my other question, it seems like you're saying that the permit is good for the location, not necessarily the business, the use permit. So if they leave, another kitchen could come in and just take over without any review or anything, and the permit is still good? Is this true?
Any parties of interest can continue the use if the business is ever sold over and someone wants to operate a similar type of business. So that it can be transferred through the staff level or the administrative review process. And during that application process, staff will evaluate the appropriateness and entertain questions to the applicant on whether they're going to continue to operate similar to how it was originally approved, or if there's any modifications required to, or disagreements with any of the conditions of approval that are assigned to that use permit. And at that time, if they disagree with any of the conditions, then they can apply for a new use permit and basically supersede the old one and identify any conditions that they don't agree with and apply for a consideration of whether that new use with those modified conditions can work out in this area. And then there's also the possibility that there are complaints received on the use, and then it goes through the revocation process if needed, if it ever gets to that point.
All right, thank you. I do like the idea of having a review in 6 months, since this is totally new. Thanks.
Sure. So with that said, I just want to read into the record the standard condition of approval for the review period. So for the record, the standard condition of approval for that particular condition would be returned to the appropriate decision-making body for review of compliance with conditions of approval within 6 months. The timing for the 6-month review period to commence begins when the business is in full operation, and then advise community development staff when in full business operation. So this would be the, if in agreement with the commission, this could be added as the last condition of approval, which I believe would make that number 11. I have to go back and look. Yes, it would be condition number 11.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Commissioner Johnson.
Thank you. I just wanted to voice my support for the addition of that condition of approval. I too have, or I guess I have the concerns with the parking on the site. You know, I go by that site quite often, and I rarely see a lot of vehicles parked in that lot. So, you know, I think it probably would work fine, but I think just revisiting it 6 months down the road is a really good idea.
All right, fair enough. Any other questions for staff? All right, seeing none, well, thank you, Mr. Jimenez, and let's come back to Mr. Milligan. Are you with us?
Yes, I am.
All right, so Mr. Milligan, would you like to respond to what you've heard?
I appreciate all the questions, and I totally agree and understand that this is a unique situation. This is something that has been a long process for me and my team to develop, and I think all these questions are absolutely valid regarding space available and parking and all these questions provided. My final comments would basically be that our goal is to provide the power of proximity to the neighboring communities. Our goal is to integrate ourselves into what we would call a 15-minute neighborhood, and this is just one piece of our particular puzzle to support that. A lot of people are working from home nowadays, and with the pandemic and this paradigm shift from commuting every day to working from home and remotely, our business model can support that particular need. And regarding staffing, our plan is to hire somewhere between 15 and 18 total staff. So we would have 2 staff there at any given time, but we would also reach out to the community and hire 15 to 18 well-paid employees to help bolster the community as well. And regarding the 6-month return review, I think that's a perfect idea, and we are in full support of making any necessary changes and addressing any questions at that time should this use permit be approved. And once again, I do appreciate all your time, and I'm happy to answer any further questions if there are any.
Okay, questions for our applicant? Seeing none, I'm just going to confirm. I'm pretty sure I heard the answer to this just now, but I just want to make sure I've got it. So, Mr. Milligan, you would be okay with us attaching the condition that you return in 6 months or less to reevaluate, correct?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. All right, thank you. So no other questions, it looks like, Commission. Well, thank you, Mr. Milligan. Once again, I assumed we don't have any public comment. Okay.
No.
Okay, good. All right, so Commission, your thoughts. Commissioner Sumners.
Thank you so much. I think the 6-month return will help, but I'm trying to understand what we're being asked to do here. And I think this is a permanent trailer kitchen in a convenience store parking lot that's open for walk-ups until 2 in the morning with no restrooms or tables or any amenities. And it's 30 feet away from single family homes. There's too many red flags here for me to support. So I'm happy to listen to what others have to say and hear where everyone else is on this, but I gotta tell you, this is gonna be really tough for me. Thanks.
Interesting. Okay, Vice Chair DiDomenico.
I'm right there with Commissioner Sumners. Again, I like the use. I think this is the wrong location for it. I understand the proximity to the neighborhood. I also understand the, since this doesn't have to have street appeal, it's not something that people are going to drive up to. It's not, I don't know, Chick-fil-A or something where you're just, you need to be front and center in front of the customer. There are an awful lot of industrial and distribution properties on the other side of Broadway that I'm sure would be perfect homes for this use and not have the same neighborhood or parking issues. But I like the solution of the let's see how it works and come back in in some period of time. So I don't know if 6 months is the right amount of time, but you have to balance that with the significant investment that the applicant is going to make. I realize it's a mobile trailer, but he's spoken that they need to bring infrastructure in to make this site work, particularly power. So I don't know. I'd feel better if we would have said 3 months, but I also know that that's dangerous.
Chairman, just to clarify from the applicant, just had a message here saying to just clarify that they do not allow walk-ups. It's just for delivery services. So they don't really do walk-ups or encourage walk-ups.
Okay, thank you, Sparna. Commissioner Amorosi.
Thank you, Chairman Lyon. I have big reservations because a convenience store tried to have a food truck, and it did have walk-ups, but it also did all the delivery app places, and there were a lot of cars going in and out, and it caused a real hassle with the neighborhood. And we pressured the property owner that they had to leave. So I had the same reservations about this, even though this looks nicer and the kitchen looks nice, but I think these kind of uses should go in industrial areas. Thank you.
Okay. Any other comments, or I'll jump in? All right, so I'll just offer my thoughts then. Appreciate what's been said already. You may well be right. I can't say that I feel like I'm an expert on this, but I live right down the street from this property, and I've seen it for years, and to me, it's always felt underutilized. And to me, I'm really kind of taken with the idea of a business model that is light and flexible and mobile enough to say, hey, we recognize a need. We also recognize an underutilized property. We can strike an agreement here that benefits a lot of people. I think that's just great business in my opinion. But then again, what do I know? When it comes to the permit criteria, the only thing that I've heard that seems like a negative is the issue on traffic. And I don't know, again, commissioners, you may all be right. From what we heard from the applicant, he said 15 to 20 trips during a peak hour. If that's correct, in my mind, a driver's not going to sit there more than 15 minutes or a quarter of an hour. That means you're not likely to have more than 5 people trying to get into this site. And again, I've been past this site I don't know how many times, and I don't know if I've ever seen more than 2 cars. And it's kind of always struck me as a ghost town. So right or wrong, I guess I'm just not very concerned about the parking here. The fact that there's residential close by, there's Mascadors and there's Detroit Coney Grill and a whole bunch of other restaurants that are not far away at all. So, I mean, this is a convenience store that sells alcohol. I'm not sure how the restaurant is worse than any of those. So right or wrong, I do not feel concerned about it. I think this is, well, let me say this. I am fascinated with the business model, but I will be on record as saying that is immaterial to my consideration of the use permit. The only items are those 5 conditions, and the only thing that I've heard that was a little bit compelling is traffic, and I'm not especially concerned with that. So I will be happy to support the project. Commissioner Lloyd.
Thank you. I just had one more question, I guess, just in regards to the 6-month condition that we are contemplating here. Does that basically open it up for any sort of nuisance that's caused by this use, not just parking, but for instance, if the 2 o'clock in the morning hours is the issue and we need to revisit that, are any of the conditions on the table if we make this, a 6-month conditional permit?
I would think so. Mr. Jimenez?
That's a correct statement, Commissioner Lloyd. All conditions are subject to either additions or modifications if needed after that hearing. And then also just by code, our use permits are subject to complaints being received and whether we need to move forward with any revocation of that use permit if needed at that point. So that's already built into the use permit. For the review period, yes, the basic answer to your question is yes, we can revisit the conditions and if needed, add to or strengthen any of them if as the commission sees as needed.
Okay. Well, with that in mind, and because I do agree that this intersection is underutilized, I would like to at least, I'd be in support of the project, with at least being able to take another look at it after 6 months.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner Lloyd. Commissioner Cassano.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. You know, I think this whole lockdown that we've been in has forced us into looking at things and businesses in a totally different way. We are now allowing extension of premises. We are now looking at more to-go food or delivery food. And I think that, you know, that's probably, we're not going to go back totally to what we had before the pandemic broke out. So I think that having some options to try and see if this works, I like the fact that we are going to be able to review it. And if the city receives complaints, or perhaps the city will be driving by just to verify that things are not being backed up the way some are concerned of in the parking lot. But I think we have to look at a different way of starting to do businesses now and in the future. And so therefore I will support this now based on the imposition of the review process. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Cassano. Commissioner Sumners.
Thanks to all the commissioners. Really appreciate hearing back from you and how you feel on this. I'm just wondering if our applicant would be willing to consider a close time a little earlier than 2 in the morning, say 10 p.m. And that's another big hurdle that I think might help some of us overcome and move to support.
All right, well, I suppose we can ask. Mr. Milligan, how would you feel about such a condition?
I can answer that question. Our main demand is for late night food and orders. We could likely support a midnight closing, but as something that I'd like to note is that if demand does seem to spike and there's more traffic than let's say in a late night 12 to 2 a.m. location, we can certainly shrink our delivery size zone on demand at a moment's notice to be able to reduce the potential increase in traffic. So we have that flexibility to appeal to a larger square mile location during the daytime, and then if business does seem to be an issue and traffic does seem to be an issue at the nighttime, we can shrink that down to accommodate. Hopefully that answered your question. I did ramble a little bit. I do apologize.
All right, thank you.
Okay, I see Commissioner Johnson's hand again.
Yes, I'd just like to comment a little bit on the time, maybe with a little bit different perspective. Those late night deliveries, you know, I don't believe that there is a traffic issue typically in the late hours of the evening. And my thoughts would be that might be the people that may be up that late, especially on the weekends, might be those that for one reason or another maybe shouldn't be driving at that time. So I think having delivery options available at that time frame in the evening is a plus for me. So I would prefer that we kept something with a later ability to operate, and maybe review it again at that 6-month window to see if that is an issue with. I'm not sure what the issues would be with the traffic at that point, but we could take it under consideration then. So I would float that as maybe an alternative.
Okay. You know, I would say that if we have a motion, I would prefer to see a motion that did not include that condition. But if that's what the rest of the commission wants to have, then you know you can put that motion forward. Personally, I'd be perfectly fine with having a motion that included the condition 11 that we've talked about, where we get to see this one again in approximately 6 months. But I'd be just fine without having the midnight or 10 p.m. clause. but that's me. Commissioner Cassano, do you have something else?
No, forgot to take my hand down. Sorry.
All right. So let's do this. I think we're about out of comments. Let me ask Mr. Abramson, refresh my memory. I feel like we have perhaps some difference in what conditions we'd like to see on a motion. Does it, to your mind, does it make sense to say we'll have a motion with one or no conditions added or whatnot, and see how that does, with the understanding that we can have another motion that adds conditions if we need it after the first motion?
Thank you, Chairman Lyon, members of the commission. If you have let's put it this way: if you're going to have a motion that indicates that it's going to be approved with the conditions as indicated in the report, then you can't bring it back for another condition.
Right, assuming if we were to approve that motion, yes. But if we deny the first motion, can the second motion say, let's take another crack at it with other conditions?
Yes.
Okay, that's
absolutely.
what I'm talking.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Abramson. So, Commissioner, I would suggest we do it that way with the understanding that you don't have to like the first bite at the apple. You can say, no, I'm going to say no on this motion, but I might be willing to come back at a slightly different motion. Does that work for us, Commission? Commissioner Sumners, you like that?
Yep, I think I know where this is going. Yep.
Okay. Well, I'm not sure where the vote's going to end up. I'm just trying to make sure we can get where it needs to go. All right. So having said that, let's have some sort of a motion.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion to approve Reef Kitchens PL 200253 with the added condition 11 that we will seek a review of the permit in 6 months of operation.
Mr. Chairman, this is Commissioner Cassano. I would second that motion.
Okay. And just to stick my big nose in, I just want to make sure we're not passing by anyone. Is there anyone that wishes to see this without that condition? Okay, seeing none, let's take that motion as it is then. All right, so motion to approve with the come back and see us clause put forward by Commissioner Amorosi and seconded by Commissioner Cassano. Commissioner Lloyd, how do you vote?
Aye.
Commissioner Cassano?
Aye.
Vice Chair DiDomenico?
Aye.
I vote aye as well. Commissioner Sumners?
Nay.
Commissioner Amorosi?
I'd like to say that, fellow commissioners, you convinced me to change my mind with this 6-month review, so I'm going to vote aye on this.
Okay, appreciate the note as well, so we understand. And Commissioner Johnson?
Aye.
Okay, so the motion passes 6-1 with Commissioner Sumners in dissent. All right, well, thanks for sticking with us, everyone. I think we worked through that pretty well. I'll take notes on it later if you want to tell me I went about it, could have gone about it differently. Ms. Dasgupta, do we have any updates that you wish to provide us on upcoming cases?
Chairman, we do not have any meetings till January 2021. So the next meeting is going to be January 12th, 2021, and the agenda will be emailed out like normal when the time comes. In the meantime, happy holidays to all the commission members, and thank you so much. And this has been an odd year, so hopefully things are for the better next year.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, everyone. We are adjourned.
Happy holidays, everybody.